Hello, everyone. This is the weekly Backdrop Design UX meeting for Thursday, January 27th, in some parts of the world. As is our practice, we'll start the meeting by going around and have everyone give a brief introduction of himself, where they're from, say a few words if you like about what you're working on or excited about. I'm Robert Lang, bug folder on the internet, coming to you from Altadena, California. And I've been working on contrib modules lately. Pass it over to Tim, who is muted.
Yep, my name is Tim Erickson. I'm St. Paul Tim. I'm in Deerwood, Minnesota. And I suppose the thing most on my mind about Backdrop right now is outreach and getting ready for the next Backdrop Live. Joseph, are you able to introduce yourself, Joseph, or should we move on?
Hi, yep. I'm Joseph. I'm a developer from Las Vegas, Nevada, and I probably will not be saying much this meeting. And Jen? Or Justin?
Yeah, Justin, do you want to go?
Justin Christopherson in Denver, Colorado. And I just help with infrastructure once in a while and be kind of lurking in the background on this one.
Jen, if you're around and you want to jump in, go ahead. Otherwise, we'll move ahead. You might not be available right now. Oh, she's looking at our agenda, so she's around. We have an agenda. We don't have anything too specific on it, although there is one issue for sure we want to talk about, and maybe we'll come back to the thing we were talking about before. But the one issue that was in the forum post about today was an update on the pathless nodes. Andy's joining us as well. And that was put on the agenda before we had a big discussion at the weekly dev meeting last week. So I think the urgency of that discussion for today has went down a bit, but there's still a couple, well, I think mainly what I just want to do today is update it. It was hung up on the fact that we had decided to move from, well, actually, Andy, I don't know if you're able to talk with us today, but I know you weren't on the dev meeting last week, and so I don't know how caught up you are on this. But as we were getting to the end of the pathless nodes issue for the last release, I think you were one who was advocating that we use layouts instead of views to display these new nodes that we were creating. And I don't know if you saw where we got kind of hung up with that, but there's some chat going on. Okay.
I did notice that. A bit hung up.
And yeah, so I don't know if you have any, it was getting to the stage where we were talking about now adding a new layout to core in order to help solve that problem. And at that point, I think we all just sort of said, wait, this is spiraling out of control. And maybe we need to stick with the views for now and follow up with moving this into a layout later.
I don't remember what the issue, what was the problem with having views? Yeah, there were pluses and minuses on each side.
Well, sure.
Issue with views, as it is.
So
No, I don't remember.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk about that. Some of the things we ran into were, number one, if we're going to use layouts, to me, then ideally we want a layout with three regions in a row. Because I think kind of the purpose of doing this in layouts would be to make it as simple as possible for end users. And with our current front page layout, we can't do that. So we would have to use CSS in order to line the three blocks up next to each other. And that's starting to feel like it's defeating the purpose of using layouts. Yeah, maybe not entirely, but at least partially. So that we started talking about maybe using flexible layouts as an alternative. I think Jen is having some audio problems. Anyways, so that was one of the issues. Another one is that if we do nodes, Olaf was pointing out that if we do nodes in existing content blocks and put them in a layout, we can't move the image above the title currently. There's an open issue for that, whereas we are able to do that with views, and in his view, that is sort of the standard way that most people do these kinds of tiles, is that the image is at the top and then the title. And we won't be able to do that. So, I mean, personally, I think we could probably get away with putting the title at the top, although that becomes problematic, especially if you have, like, one of them has a single line title and the next one has a 2-line title, then the images don't line up nicely. And it just gets complicated. So those were at least two of the main issues that came up. And then as we started to resolve them, it was like, are we going to change the front page layout to another core layout? Are we going to create a flexible layout template? And we seem to be moving in the direction of, well, if we're going to do this right, we're going to need to create a new layout for the front page and add it to core. So did you have any thoughts on that? Or Robert, were you going to say anything?
I wasn't, but I'm going to be the Jen poster. Jen's posting in the chat. And it says we can put the image at the top and the title below. And I thought that's not what I thought that's not what we decided.
Yeah, I don't understand that comment.
Here we go.
Yes, that's what we decided. We're just talking about this because Andy wasn't on that call. So I just wanted to update Andy on where we were at and see if he had any thoughts he wanted to share. But so when I said we couldn't do that, I was explaining why we made the decision to go with views instead of.
It's a really long issue, so I'm trying to read it right now.
Okay.
Because I don't remember what the main issues were. So just give me a minute to go back.
Yeah.
Wasn't one of the motivations for kind of making that issue was that all the other options required substantially more development work, like turning titles into a field that could be moved up and down in display, or things like that, and that doing it in views, we could get it out pretty quickly, and then because this only affects new installs, we could change what we do pretty easily in the future.
Yeah, and we could move it to layouts in the future once we figure out the layout problem. But it seemed pretty clear in theory, the layout idea seemed like a great idea until I started to try and implement it and realized that it had a whole bunch of problems of its own. So, anyways, well, I think we could, Andy, jump in if at any point you want to ask any more questions or say anything about that. I think the status of that issue, and I'm not looking at it right now, and I should be, is I think there's 3 big things. One, we have to decide, I had totally forgotten about this until this morning, was that I believe where we left this off was Olaf had provided us with like 6 sets of images for the posts, and we were deciding which ones to use. And I think we'll be able to manage that. And then I don't think we've had a lot of feedback on the content that I put in the PR, and so we probably need a little fine tuning of that. And then I think tests. There's a number of tests that are failing, and I'm not sure if we're going to need any new tests. I haven't even looked at tests. Up until the point we're at in this PR, I ignored tests because I felt like it was so much in flux that there was no point in worrying about tests until we knew which direction we were going. And I think we're at that stage now where we could figure out either the current problems with tests and or find out if we need any new ones. I think at some point much earlier in this discussion, there was a concern that this would break or require a lot of tests. And it seems to me that we've kind of determined that's not in fact the case, that it shouldn't be too bad. But I don't fully understand the implications in terms of what we might need for tests on this. So anybody that can help with that. So I don't know that we need to talk about this anymore today, other than to say that that's the status. If anybody has any opinions or wants to talk about the issues or the text or the tests, please jump in now.
Yeah, thinking back, I think my issue with it, it wasn't really my issue, but I think somebody made the point that if we use views, then anytime the user makes a new one of those nodes, the card node or whatever we decide to call it,
Yeah.
then it would automatically appear on the front page. I think that was the trigger for wondering if we should use a template instead. But I don't think that's a major problem.
Right.
If that content type is understood to be just for those cards, then you would accept that anytime you make a new one, then it would end up being a card. So I don't think that's a limiting factor. And I think we had gotten kind of close to agreeing on the images as well. So I think we should be able to close out that discussion.
Jen makes the point that the views could filter on promoted content, and so then that could restrict it.
And I believe that's what they do, right. And Jen's pointing out that we certainly can do that. I mean, I think though the point would be is that the use case that we're kind of promoting for those blocks suggests that they might be stable, and in fact they're not. But that's not a big. I don't see that as a big problem. And if nobody promotes another info block, it won't disrupt that. But yes, I think Olaf, created a test. Olaf created a test post, a new hidden node, and then noticed, of course, that and he must have promoted it. I mean, we'll have to verify that we are using the promoted checkbox. We should be. It might be that we weren't, and that was the problem, and that's fixable. But yeah, I think we can address some of those issues. And again, it might not be perfect out of the box, but the nice thing about this issue is it's just in the install profile. We can easily tweak it and improve it for future releases, even bug fix releases, I would assume, without breaking anybody's site or even impacting anyone's site. So, okay. Well, if nobody, again, I think we're close on the images. I think we can probably make a decision on that. And if we get feedback on the content in the test, we can move on this issue. So I think we could go on to another. Anything else? The problem is we don't have anything else really on our agenda yet. Does anybody else have any other UX issues that they want to talk about today, or design issues? I'm going to just go. We have this little link in the agenda that takes us to all the current UX issues. And I can see, just look and see what the currently UX marked issues that are most recently updated are. I have the feeling that I haven't been super. Jen's got one she wants us to talk about. I was just going to say, I haven't been watching the issue queue as closely as I do sometimes, but my sense is that at the moment there's a bunch of kind of technical issues that are not very UX related that are getting the most attention. There are a few though UX issues that I've seen pop up, and let's check out Jen's issue 4029. Oh, this is a great one, and I did notice that this one was getting some attention. And I would ask Jen to update us on it, except that she doesn't. It seems to be having audio problems. So I'm going to scroll down. If anybody else, there's no new comments on it, Jen. I know I saw that you had some. You've been making updates to the PR. So can you give us a thumbs up? Or say something to indicate, does your PR address some of that, the ideas that the last comments were from Gregory, and Gregory proposed kind of an option to solve. Jen had the history on this is Jen had a PR. This is a user compare visibility rule. So this is on a block, you'll be able to compare whether the user. Well, I think the original PR said whether the current user is the same as the user in the path or the current user is different from the user in the path. And some of us pointed out that that was not real useful to a lot of users, and we needed to come up with a better way to handle that. Okay, and it sounds like Jen has a PR that addresses that. So Jen, I don't know what more we can do in the meeting other than if we actually opened this up and looked at it, which I'd be willing to do if we've got nothing else. But I will definitely take a look at that. I like this issue, and I remember commenting on it before. So, okay, good. So Jen saying in chat, really, she's just looking for more people to look at the latest PR and provide feedback. So I'll do my best to do that. If anybody else wants to do that. Any other there? I see the next most recent usability issue, the most recently commented on, is the separate description for book navigation block settings. And Jen, I think that's another issue of yours. What's it marked? Oh, it's RTBC. So I guess we don't need to talk about that. Yeah, as I glance through this issue queue, I'm not seeing anything at the top that I'm very familiar with. So I don't know, we could just call this meeting short. Or tell you what, let's chat a little bit about, because I'm not sure where the discussion we were having right before the meeting, if it's okay, let's talk briefly about that, because it's not necessarily a core design UX issue, but it's a contrib issue, really. And so I'm not sure what meeting to bring it to, and since we have a little bit of time here. What we were talking about when you joined us, Jen, well, actually I think it was discovery, the issue that when you approached me yesterday about that module that I'm listed as a maintainer of, and I didn't even remember porting that module, is that it's like there's no way for me to just print out a list of all the modules that I'm listed as maintainer on. And Robert was pointing out that we have added the ability to track maintainers through the .info file of modules. But of course, that's going to be only moving forward, right? We've got 800 modules where that's not listed. Plus, that would require that somebody release a module before that would get to backdrop.org. And I've been debating, although I've been debating trying to do some sort of data pull from GitHub to see if I could create a list of modules that I could play around with and experiment with. But even if I did that, I couldn't get the maintainer, right? Because there isn't any GitHub doesn't show who like owns or who's the key developer on a contrib project, right? So really the only place you can get the maintainer is from the README, and even in the README, there's no standard way of doing it. So I might have listed myself as St. Paul Tim as the maintainer of one module, and Tim Erickson as the maintainer of another module. And so even if I did some sort of scrape of all the .info or the READMEs, it wouldn't be very clean, would it? And so I think what I'm asking right now, one is if there's anything I'm missing in terms of a way to do that, for me to like find all the modules on the maintainer, or create a system for other people to do that. And or two, is there any way we can take this change that we made to the .info file and get that up to date? You know, even if it's like a sprint, you know, spending a Saturday going through and writing PRs for all the modules that update their .info files, and hoping that the maintainers merge them. The use case is I don't know which modules I maintain. How do I search? That's right. I'm asking. I don't know of any way to search. Yeah. I might.
The module search function does a full text search of the module node info that comes from the README file. So since you have a relatively unusual name, if you were to search for Erickson, it will pull up the projects that have Erickson in the README, and similarly St. Paul Tim. You know, and that's not fully automated, but that would get you to a manageable enough list to go through and say, oh, yeah, you know, that's mine.
Right. I think it would nice. I mean, I can think of it would, you know, it might be interesting to see all of the modules that Andy Doc Wilmot maintains, just because I'm sometimes impressed by all the work he's done. But you know, I don't know how urgent that is. But you know, I've just often wondered, like, how how do I find all the modules that I've listed myself as maintainer on? And I think you said you use GitHub. And so I take it what you're, I'm not quite sure how you do that, other than maybe.
No. I'm saying.
Jen, I'm talking about Jen. Jen in the chat, Jen said that she uses GitHub to search to find all the modules that she's a maintainer of. Okay, and she's pointing out that that's probably not definitive. Okay. Okay, and oh yeah, and Robert, you provided an example of how to do that search. Okay. Well, I wanted to just throw that out there and see if people had input, and you had there's a few ideas out there that would help me a little bit. I think we should think about, though, how to better, in Drupal.org, you can, every user lists all the modules that they contribute to or maintain. And we don't have anything like that. And I feel like we should have something at least sort of like that. But I don't know if this is the right time or meeting to talk about that. Maybe we'll bring that up in a session on Backdrop Live. If nobody else has any UX issues, I'm inclined to wrap up this meeting and get ready for the next one.
Just on the last issue we just spoke about,
Sure.
Not particularly searching by maintainer. I suppose that probably might not have a lot of use. I can imagine if eventually not an individual person, but if you have an organization that started making lots of modules, it might be useful, I suppose, to find all the St. Paul Tim modules. But maybe not. But I just want to say that the other functionality, though, being able to put more data in the info files, I think that some of that could be useful, and we should look into using that functionality. Apart from just maintainers, we can do other things as well. We've done it so that if you put the information in the info files, then it is actually now being stored on the project node, but we're not using that information. Right. So I think at some point we need to start deciding how to use that information to display more information to users so they can search, more easily. If you want, modules that specifically deal with user access or something like that. Right now, it's impossible to do that. If you want themes that, specific categories of things, it's impossible. So I think that's something that we should do. Right. Drupal definitely does it. I mean, on the Drupal module listing page, you can search by lots of stuff: maintenance status, development status, right. Stability, all sorts of things. But for us, it's all or nothing. And I think that would be a good user experience win for us.
Well, I think the fact that we've added the capability to start doing those kinds of things, we haven't there's no blog post, we haven't officially rolled it out anyway, right? I mean, basically, Drupal, is my understanding right that that backdrop.org will read that information already from the .info files if people add it, but we're not exposing it in any way, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the capability for that to start working is there. We just need to figure out how to actually add the filters and the displays to make the information useful. But it's a little bit of a chicken and egg thing, right? Like exposing those filters right now wouldn't help much because of the 600 or 700 modules we have. Almost none of them have done it yet. So one of the first things we need to do is get people to start updating their .info files to include that. And it seems to me maybe we need to communicate better. As someone who maintains a number of contrib modules, I have no idea what it is I should be doing. I think I went in and updated one or two of my themes with new image files because I knew that I could do that. It's the only change I've made to any of my contrib modules. And until someone sort of gives me a list of what I should do, I probably wouldn't make any changes. And so we're not going to get this. It isn't going to be useful until we really start telling maintainer. Can I put you on the spot, Robert? You have a number of modules. Have you started to update all your .info files yet?
I haven't, which is even more embarrassing because I was helping out on on getting the info from the .info to the site. But
Honestly, I haven't done it either.
Right.
Okay.
Sure. And I think, I didn't mean to embarrass anybody because I obviously haven't done it either. But I think that's pretty natural because, one, we haven't asked anybody to do it. And two, we're not using the information. So we need to, probably the first step is to ask people to start to do it and then to start to expose that information in useful ways so that people see the value in doing it.
Yeah, well, it might be nice maybe to do a blog post saying, this is all the new information. And then we can start putting issues in module queues and, friendly saying, hey, would you add the information in this blog post to your .info file?
Jen is just saying in chat that we could also start filing PRs. And one of my ideas was that we have a beginner sprint, contrib sprint, where we invite some folks that want to learn how to do PRs. And these would be great, this would be a great way to learn how to do PRs because it's a really simple change. We could even, call it a training session on writing PRs for contrib and then use it to generate a bunch of PRs that update .info files for maintainers. So, okay. So these are some good ideas. I think we should start to promote that. And I'd also like to start thinking about, none of our meetings is this really on topic. So I suppose it could come up in any of them, but we might want to start thinking about if that's part of the reason why nothing's happening on this is we don't have a meeting that handles this kind of contrib issue. So Jen just asked, Robert, what happened to the layout page cleanup issue? Did you get that in?
There were, I'm not sure which issue, because there were a couple issues related to the layout page cleanup. So I guess I don't know.
Yes,
the help text is in.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one. The one that grouped, I don't think that one's in yet.
No, I don't think so.
I'll have to go look up where it is.
I'm pretty sure I just looked for it as well in the latest version of Backdrop, and it's not in there. I think I went and found the issue, but I don't remember its status. Oh, Jen found it. 4871. Let's look at that quick and see is that waiting on anything? Oh wait, this doesn't even have a PR, the one she just listed. I know, I'm pretty sure I commented on an issue with the PR, so there must be.
There's definitely a PR.
Try 4869. These may be two issues very closely related. Yeah, I think this is it. Layout listing, do a better job at indicating. Oh,
No, it's 4868.
4868.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's closed. Okay. So that's help text.
Well, then was it 4869? No, there's no PR for that. This looks right though. Or is there a PR and it's just not listed properly? This is not the discussion. There were.
Yeah, this is not the one that had the grouping.
I think we talked about the issue like 2 weeks ago, and people like Martin went and posted on it right away. So there should be 5077. Jen's looking through the issue queue. Yeah, this is probably it. This has a PR. This is Bark needs testing. Yeah,
Yep,
and it's,
yeah, this is the one.
right. Okay, and even more importantly, Doc Wilmot likes it.
High praise.
So yeah, I guess,
Oh, just needs review and testing.
okay, yeah. So 2 weeks ago, I think we talked about it. It looks like Wilbur went out and tested it. Yeah, and Martin, a couple people went out and commented on it right after the meeting 2 weeks ago. So, yeah, I thought we talked about that recently. Okay, let's really end this meeting though, because it's 3 minutes before the hour. So the next meeting is starting soon. Talk to you guys. Well, I'll talk to you in a few minutes. Bye.
Okay.
Give me a second to find the button.